Welcome to the Deep Dive. Ready to explore virtual and augmented reality?
Sounds like a fascinating journey.
We've got Jörg-Owe essay, Virtual and Augmented Reality, to guide us.
Oh, Schneppet's work is always so insightful. He really gets into the nitty-gritty of how this tech works.
Exactly. And he doesn't stop there. He explores how it could completely reshape, well, pretty much everything.
It really is mind-blowing to think about. Both VR and AR change how we see reality.
But in totally different ways, right?
Exactly. As Schneppet points out, VR aims to completely replace reality. You put on that headset and suddenly, boom, you're in a different world.
Like walking through a digital door.
That's a great way to put it, but then you've got AR. It just enhances the world we already know.
Like those filters on social media, the ones that give you bunny ears. That's AR.
Right. Or remember Pokémon Go? That was AR too.
Yeah. It got everyone out and about catching those virtual creatures.
It's incredible how many different applications of this are. Schneppet even talks about how VR is being used for therapy.
Oh yeah, helping people overcome their fears.
Even helping them deal with trauma. And at the same time, AR is changing how we work, especially in manufacturing and retail. Schneppet really covers it all.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start with virtual reality. What always fascinates me is this idea of presence. That feeling of actually being in the virtual world. How do they do that?
Well, Schneppet goes into detail about the role of hardware. VR headsets block out the real world, right? And they replace it with this 3D visual and auditory experience.
I see.
But it goes beyond just what you see and hear. You've got these motion controllers.
Right.
So you can actually interact with that virtual world, manipulate objects, move around. There are even some advanced systems using haptic feedback.
Oh, wow.
So you can feel things in that virtual space.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What really intrigues me is the therapy aspect. Schneppet talks about using VR to help people with phobias. It almost seems counterintuitive, though.
Right.
How can putting someone in a virtual world help them deal with real-world fears?
It's all about controlled exposure, and that's where VR shines, as Schneppet explains. Think about traditional exposure therapy. You're slowly facing your fears in real life.
Yeah.
But with VR, you can create a completely controlled and safe environment.
I see.
Imagine if you're afraid of heights. In VR, you can virtually climb a skyscraper with a therapist guiding you the whole way.
Wow.
It's like tricking your brain into adapting to that fear.
So it's not about avoiding the fear. It's about confronting it, but in a safe way.
Exactly.
I wonder if it's actually more effective than traditional therapy.
Researchers are looking into that right now.
Okay.
But early studies show some promising results, especially for phobias and PTSD. Schneppet points out that VR can create a level of immersion that's tough to get with traditional therapy.
Makes sense.
And that heightened realism seems to be key to rewiring the neural pathways linked to fear.
Like you're retraining your brain. And it's not just for mental health, right?
Yeah.
Schneppet also talks about VR's impact on medical training.
Absolutely. Imagine this. Instead of just reading textbooks or watching videos to learn surgery, you could practice on a virtual patient. That's what VR simulations allow.
That's so cool.
As Schneppet explains, it's a risk-free environment for surgeons to perfect their skills before they ever step into an actual operating room.
That's got to improve outcomes for patients, right?
Exactly. That's the hope, and research is supporting that idea. Schneppet even highlights studies that show surgeons who do VR training, they make fewer mistakes, perform procedures more efficiently, and feel less stressed during real surgeries.
Wow. A win-win for both the surgeon and the patient.
It really is. VR is really pushing the boundaries in medicine. It's incredible. But AR is different. VR puts you in a whole new environment. But AR, it actually improves the real world, like Schneppet explains.
And AR feels like it's already everywhere we look. Just think about those filters we use on Instagram and Snapchat. They're so popular.
Yeah, those are fun. They're engaging. But Schneppet takes it a step further. He shows how AR is transforming entire industries. Take manufacturing, for example. Technicians can use AR headsets now. They overlay digital instructions right on top of the equipment they're working with.
Oh, I see.
It's like having a virtual manual right there in front of you, walking you through every step.
I can see how useful that would be, especially for really complex tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. And Schneppet highlights how this doesn't just make things more efficient, it actually reduces errors, too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Leading to better quality control and better productivity overall.
That's a great point. It's like AR is making us better at our jobs.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking about the entertainment side of things. We talked about Pokémon Go earlier.
Right?
What are some other ways AR is changing how we experience entertainment?
Schneppet gives some really interesting examples. Think about live events, like concerts or sporting games. AR can create these immersive experiences, adding virtual stuff that just enhances the real performance.
Like what?
Imagine virtual fireworks going off above a concert stage or like a virtual dinosaur running across the court during halftime.
That would be amazing. It's like they're blending reality with fantasy.
Yeah, it creates something totally unique. And that's really just the beginning. Schnippat even talks about how museums are using AR to make their exhibits come alive.
Oh, wow.
Visitors can interact with historical artifacts or even step inside a virtual version of an ancient city.
That's taking interactive museums to a whole new level. It makes me wonder about the impact on education. If we can make history come alive in a museum, can we do the same thing in a classroom?
That's actually one of the most promising applications of AR, and Schneppat really dives deep into that potential in his essay.
I see.
He argues that AR has the power to totally revolutionize how we learn. It could make it more interactive, more engaging, even more personalized.
Mm.
Imagine a history lesson where students can virtually travel back in time.
Wow.
They could witness historical events happening right in front of them, or a science class where they can dissect a virtual frog.
That's definitely different from the textbooks and lectures I remember from school.
Right. It seems like it would make learning so much more exciting. Students would actually remember what they learn.
Definitely. It's like having a personal tutor who can adapt to your specific needs.
Exactly. And Schnippat highlights how AR can even provide feedback in real time.
Oh, wow.
Guiding students, helping them figure out where they need to improve, offering that personalized support.
It sounds incredible. I'm wondering about the practical side of things, though. Do schools actually have the resources to implement this AR technology on a large scale? It seems expensive.
Yeah, those are important concerns. Schneppat acknowledges those challenges. Getting this technology widely adopted, he points out that the cost of AR devices is a big barrier,
Right.
especially for schools in under-resourced communities. But he also emphasizes that the prices are coming down.
Okay.
And as the technology keeps getting better, we can expect even more affordable options.
It seems like it's just a matter of time
Right.
before this becomes accessible to everyone. As that happens, I bet we'll see more and more creative ways to use AR in education.
Absolutely. And Schneppat suggests that as AR becomes a bigger part of education, we might actually see a shift away from those traditional ways of learning.
Oh, interesting.
Less passive lectures, less memorization, and more emphasis on hands-on projects, collaborative problem solving, and real-world applications. It's about preparing students for the future where creativity, critical thinking, and being adaptable are the most important skills.
That makes a lot of sense. We've been talking about all the good things about these technologies.
Right.
But Schneppat also reminds us that there are some potential downsides we should think about, like the idea of skill transfer.
Right.
Just because you can do something perfectly in a virtual or augmented environment, does that mean you can do it in the real world?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And researchers are still trying to figure that out. Schneppat points out that there can be this gap between what you learn virtually and how you apply it in real life. Like a surgeon who's amazing in a VR surgery simulation might still face difficulties when operating on a real person.
Right.
There are just so many variables and unexpected things that happen in the real world that you can't always plan for in a simulation.
It's kind of like the difference between playing a driving game and actually driving a car. Right.
Exactly. There's a level of real-world experience that you just can't fully replicate virtually.
I see what you mean.
Schneppat argues that we need to be aware of that gap. VR and AR can be incredible training tools.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't think of them as replacements for a real-world experience. It's about finding the right balance.
So it's not about getting rid of traditional methods. It's about figuring out how to use these new technologies effectively alongside them.
Exactly. And we need to be aware of their limitations, too. Schneppat also brings up the issue of accessibility. How do we make sure that these technologies are available to everyone?
Yeah.
Regardless of their background or their physical abilities.
That's a really important point. We don't want to create a situation where only some people have access to these tools.
Right. Schneppat argues that we need to think about fairness and access as we develop and use these technologies. We need to make sure everyone has the chance to benefit from the potential of VR and AR.
So much to think about. We've really covered a lot. The technical side of VR and AR, their impact on healthcare, entertainment, education, even the future of work. And while there are challenges ahead, Schneppat's essay leaves us feeling optimistic about all the possibilities.
Definitely. Schneppat talks about the potential downsides, but ultimately he believes that these technologies can actually improve our lives, make us more efficient, more creative, and even more connected to the world around us.
It's exciting to think about what the future holds.
And it's a good reminder that we're not just, sitting back and letting technology happen to us. We actually have a role to play in making sure it's used ethically and responsibly.
Yeah, it's like he's encouraging us to have a bigger conversation about these technologies, not just about the tech itself, but the social, even philosophical implications.
And Schneppert definitely doesn't shy away from those big questions. He makes us really think about how these technologies blur the line between what's real and what's virtual. And what does that even mean for our understanding of reality, our identity, even consciousness?
It's pretty mind-blowing to consider all that.
Yeah.
If we can have different personas in virtual worlds or even talk to AI that feels almost human, does that change what it means to be human?
It definitely raises those questions. Schneppert argues that we have to re-examine what we think we know about the nature of reality, the boundaries of ourselves, the very essence of human experience. It's philosophical as much as it is technological.
And it feels like we're just at the beginning of this exploration. We're in uncharted territory, and Schneppat's kind of like our guide,
Right.
helping us understand these complex questions, showing us both the incredible potential and the possible dangers.
He's really good at connecting the dots, like showing how advancements in VR and AR could lead to totally new industries, new jobs we can't even imagine yet. We might have virtual architects designing buildings in the metaverse, or therapists who specialize in treating anxieties that are specific to digital spaces.
It's a whole new world of possibilities.
It is. Schnepppat encourages us to approach it with a sense of excitement, but also, with critical thinking.
It's so important to remember these technologies are tools, and like any tool, they can be used for good or bad. It really comes down to the choices we make, our values, and the future we want to create.
And that's why it's so important to have these conversations now as these technologies are being developed. Schnepppat really emphasizes that. We need dialogue. We need to think critically about these things.
Yeah.
We have to make sure we're shaping this revolution in a way that benefits everyone.
This is such a powerful reminder that the future isn't set in stone. It's something we're actively creating, and each of us has a part to play in that. Whether you're a developer, someone making policies, a teacher, or just someone who's curious, we all have a stake in this.
And that's what makes this deep dive into Schneppat's essay so important. It's not just about understanding the technology, it's about understanding ourselves, where we fit in this rapidly changing world,
Absolutely.
and how we're going to navigate the unknown when it comes to virtual and augmented reality.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I really hope our listeners feel inspired to keep the conversation going, explore these technologies, ask questions,
Yes.
and be active in shaping the future we want.
It's been an amazing journey into the world of VR and AR, and I think Schnepppat leaves us with a really powerful message.
So,
The future is in our hands. Let's make it a future worth having.